Oh, hello. Sorry for the delay. A little technical difficulties setting this thing up, getting it functioning here. But just want to do an audio check. Give me a thumbs up or a yes if you guys can hear me. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you guys for joining. Today, we're going to be talking about accelerating your path to becoming a champion. So those of you who's joining us, thank you guys for taking the time to join us for the hour tonight to, better our lives, better our skills to get us to the next level. So accelerating our path to becoming a champion. We've all, had heroes growing up. And if you're playing golf right now, you may have had any kind of golfer you looked up to. There's somebody that maybe pulled you into the game that got you excited. You might have been watching golf on TV, and for whatever reason that excited you to follow that person, right? So many of you may love Tiger Woods, and he sparked the whole generation of when I was growing up. Bring excitement to the game, and then you start following him over and over and seeing, all the contributions, the championships that he's won, what he's done for the game. And if you're coming up, Tiger's already, been out there. So maybe there's the Jordan Spieth, the Dustin Johnsons, the Rory McIlroys, the Michelle Wees, somebody that you just watched growing up or just caught your attention and just say, wow, wouldn't that be amazing to do what they're doing, or to do it on some level, what they're doing, where, playing extremely high level golf. But beyond the golf is, how do you get that level where you can influence millions and millions of people, right? You may have had thoughts where, wonder what it feels like, or even dreams, what it feels like to hold up like the trophy, right? I'm holding up my Masters trophy here and saying, well, what does this feel like, looking at the millions of people, or the thousands of people in attendance, or the millions of people, watching on TV, holding up, smiling, and then, going into your press conference to, talk about your experience and how you got there. So, see, we've all, been in that situation, and, sometimes, for a lot of times, that's what is pulling us towards, doing what we want to do, play golf at an extremely high level and see how far we can get, whether it's, getting into your high school team and playing at extremely high level and continue to improve in high school, making it to college, or getting out of college and playing professionally and seeing, can I influence even more people with the skills that I have and play extremely good golf, and, eventually win golf tournaments and take the skills and knowledge and influence even more. So, the big key here I want to push is just being able to influence, as many people and others around the world. And that's what really becoming a champion is. Excuse me one second. And so kind of going into the champion, right? When we talk about champions, it's not just players that have won a golf tournament once or twice, or maybe they've won, you may hear like, oh, junior golf champions or teenage champions. Well, the champs that we're talking about here are, people that compete or do things at an extremely high level and then continue to achieve at a very high level. Not just, we've won this year and last year and next year, a few years, and then all of a sudden nobody's heard of us before because we just kind of fall off and taper off. So, becoming a champion is going far beyond just playing and winning a golf tournament. It's being able to elevate your game, your golf game, elevate your life, be able to give back more and contribute to what made you become, and achieve the success that you have so you can give others success. When we look at past players that I would consider, champions of the games, people like a Tiger Woods, right? A Jack Nicklaus, even though the younger players now, Rory, Dustin Johnson. You get an Arnold Palmer, some of the legends that played. Greg Norman. Those are all, in my opinion, champions of the game, because beyond just winning golf tournaments, they continue to elevate their lives, elevate their games, contribute a lot more. And beyond just golf, as you see a lot of players now that have been playing for a long time, you see Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, legends of the game, Greg Norman. They all start going beyond golf. How can they give back more, right? And still, even though they can't play at the same high level that they used to, how can they still achieve at the highest level? And you see them, designing golf courses, and now they're very famous, golf designers or golf architects in the game. Excuse me. Greg Norman is an interesting one because he is not that much into golf. He has his own golf apparel line, which is amazing, but he is known for his high-end, he's a cattle rancher that has some of the best, Wagyu beef in the world outside of Japan or where you can get it. So even when he's not playing golf specifically, he is in this cattle ranching business, and he's still trying to contribute and achieve as high as possible and get to the top and constantly grow and constantly get better. The one thing that most of these players have is, although they've achieved tremendous success in the game of golf, they've all found ways to develop some kind of formula that got them to where they got to, whether they had a formula that got them as a junior to a junior champion, took that formula, made it a little bit better, used it again, turned them into a collegiate and amateur champion. You took that formula and then got out and became a professional champion on the mini tours and then onto the PGA tours. Some people just had it and took it from junior golf straight to college, straight to the PGA tour, winning the next year, somebody like a Tiger Woods. But you also get formulas of other players, everybody's so unique that you get players that don't win a golf tournament, but they're always, bettering their golf games and figuring out ways to improve. And they don't win until they get into the Champions Tour or the Legends Tour. So that, if you're not familiar with what that is, that would be the senior Champions Tour, is the senior division of the PGA Tour, and the Legends Tour is the senior division of the LPGA. And just in general, most players that are previous PGA players or tournament winners, can move on to the Champions Tour or Legends Tour, but also there's qualifying. And you hear of a lot of stories that people are qualifying into these Champions Tour events, and having massive, massive success, after the age of 50, which means, they're constantly working on it. They committed for a very long time, stuck with it, and found their formula, and then got their way, and eventually, had this really massive, successful career on the Champions Tour. And then, after that, then, they go on to designing golf courses or getting in the golf business once they get outside of that. But, they find that formula for success, and then they just add it to, the different aspects of their life. Excuse me. So I have a little framework here that I want to share with you guys on how can you accelerate your path to becoming a champion, right? And we would use this in your life, in your golf game, and in everything that you do. First off, we have here is you always want to compare against yourself, right? If you're getting into the competitive aspect where you're playing in golf tournaments, or you're starting to play a lot with your peers, we tend to always judge ourselves based on, how am I versus my playing partners that I play with this week, or that I'm playing with all the time, in past chats that we had on our webinars, I mentioned I was always at the bottom of my peer group, right? I was never on top. But one of the big things that, I want you guys to understand is, you need to compare yourself against yourself, not necessarily against your peer group or in the tournaments. Oftentimes I would hear, players saying, and I did it myself growing up in all the events, that how did I do against the field? And I would rate my performance based on how I performed, right? Or maybe just playing a round of golf. How did I do when I played 18 holes for my practice round, or just playing on the weekend? Like, what did I shoot? And I'm rating myself against, just the golf course and my score, as opposed to how was I compared to how I should be in the conditions that I had. If we take in, those of you that are playing in golf tournaments, or looking at saying, I want to be like this person, and why can't I achieve this? Or I should be playing better than this because this person beat me, right? We never know how anybody else prepares for things. And so it's very difficult to judge yourself against and compare yourself against anything or anybody that you really don't know the preparation and the training that they're going through, right? Because there's nothing there that we can control. All you can control is what kind of preparation do I have for myself? What time did I put in? And what is the product that came out of my preparation, and continue to go on there, right? We can play different golf tournaments and say, well, this week I played horrible because I got last place. But if you use that as your, comparison, your last place finish in a field that maybe golfers may have played very well, right? Or maybe you had, one situation that caused a hole to be extremely big, and that caused you to be in the place that you're in. And it gets you to forget about, maybe you're working on some stuff and you had a lot of great stuff going, and my driving was excellent today. My chipping was good today. There's just a few putts that just didn't go my way and didn't go in, and they kind of just accumulated over the round. And when we start comparing ourselves against everyone else, or against the field, I got last place, or, the opposite example would be, I won the golf tournament today. Yay. So, and you get super excited and you feel like, yes, I'm on top of the world. I won this event today. And, you should always celebrate things that you've accomplished and your successes, but you should always be able to go in and go beyond just winning or losing, or the place you go in, and be able to extract, how is it that my performance is going? Because, winning a golf tournament, that could be, your goal or your target, but you want to be able to put yourself in a situation where you're constantly growing, because at every level, you're going to need to step your game up to be able to perform at the highest level. So if we just go by what place we're at, if we're winning and you're saying, I'm really good, I'm going to, keep on doing what I'm doing, and not really look at the details of, like, even though I won, but maybe I won with a mediocre score and I wasn't focused today, and I made a handful of simple errors that I usually wouldn't do because I got distracted and I started blaming these things. But then at the end, some of the things went together, and then I carted together a pretty good score, and I won this event, right? And then you really would get distracted on not being able to pull up and say, well, this went well, I kind of got distracted in this area, and why did I get distracted? So then you can then build that into your practice. So, always compare against yourself and how you were, how you are currently, how were you yesterday, how you are today, and then go from there. Because at any point, you could always be bettering yourself. And if you're comparing yourself against somebody else that may be improving at that same time, or these events that you're playing, or the peers that you're playing with, and they're improving faster than you, you're going to get put in a field that it's just not going good, and you're doing something wrong, and you're going to stop what you're doing and you're going to change direction. So, always compare yourself against yourself and use yourself as the baseline. Excuse me. The second one here is, we want to be able to manage our expectations. So what is it when we say manage your expectations? So managing your expectations is, every great player that has played the game, or high performer out there, understands, what is to be expected. So if we're talking about golf here, And we're always, you know, if you're in this chat tonight or in this call tonight, all of you want to take yourself to the next level, right? You guys are all high performers and you're all striving for the next level. And because we're, you know, you guys are all that way, your expectations are extremely high, right? We want to make every single putt. We want to hit everything solid. We want to get pars and birdies every single time. And sometimes, you know, because we're always striving for like the highest level, sometimes we're always looking too high, right? And saying sometimes these expectations are just not realistic, and then you're just chasing something that, you know, it's realistically not achievable. And, you know, I'll share with you an example. So, you know, currently within, I guess in the last year or so, it's been, I want to say the scoring average or the scoring average to hold out on the PGA Tour from 80 yards. And that would be kind of a common wedge shot for most of us, right? For 80 yards is just about, I think between 2.75 and 2.8 something is when I last heard. So pulling out for most adult players or high level team players, when you have an 80-yard shot, your expectation goes really high. It's like, oh, I'm going to make a birdie on this one. I have to make a birdie because I have my wedge. I just slide my driver down the fairway, and I got in this perfect opportunity, and this is a birdie, right? So we get up there, we grab our wedge from 80 yards, and we hit that thing, and it goes 30 feet away. And then we're like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe I just hit it out there. That's horrible, and I never do stuff like that ever. I just blew it. My one opportunity for birdie, and I hit it 30 feet, and now I got to settle. I got to two-putt for par, or I got to make this long 30-footer that I rarely would make to get my birdie. When knowing that if on the PGA Tour at the highest level on average at 80 yards, they would average about 2.75 to 2.8 something, somewhere in that area. They're roughly only a quarter shot or less under par if you're trying to hold out in 3 for par from 80 yards. So, you know, what does that tell us? If we know the facts, right, that means the best golfers in the world make more threes than twos on average from 80 yards. They would do that same from 70 yards, same from 90 yards, same from 100 yards, right? Just because you have a wedge in your hand doesn't mean, you know, it's a birdie hole. It means it's a birdie opportunity. You still have to pull the shot off, but so many times we just expect really good things because we have certain things in our hands like a wedge. And instead of acknowledging the fact that, well, maybe it's a quarter shot under par for the best in the world, and if I'm playing at the amateur level, I'm playing the collegiate level, I'm playing the high school level, I'm playing the miniature level, that means at that level, the scoring average from that same in the field that you're playing is definitely much higher, right? So you're a lot less than a quarter shot under par. Maybe it's a tenth of a shot under par, depending, or maybe it's even par, right? Depending on the field that you're playing. So you just getting it on the green and 2-putting for par puts you in a category where you're only losing a quarter shot or less, quarter shot, maybe 0.2 of a shot against the best players in the world. And now you're judging yourself on your expectations because you wanted to make birdie and you didn't hit the shot that you're looking for. And then that kind of takes you in this downward spiral where you're upset on the putt, you don't accomplish the putt, you 3-putt, and then you're walking to the next hole. It's like, no, I just blew it. I had a birdie opportunity. I walked off with a bogey. And then, you know, it takes you into the tee box. And then now you are frustrated and you're trying to push and, you know, force the shots that you want to go. So, you know, manage your expectations. Know what is your realistic, you know, capabilities when you're playing, and also the realistic capabilities of what you can achieve, right? So when we're bringing that into practice, if we are, you know, putting on the putting green, what, you know, figure out like whatever you're practicing, where's my skill level at this point, and what is a realistic expectation that I can achieve in the very short term goal, which what can I get through today to see if I've built any skill? What can I measure, you know, at the end of the week or after the next 5, 7, 10 practice sessions to see, did I get a little bit better? You know, if I'm practicing putting and I tell myself, you know, right now I can't make any 10 footers at all. And I'm going to practice until I can make them 100% of the time. And I'm going to keep on going, because when I watch golf on TV, those, you know, tour players on the men's or women's tour, they're making all the 10 footers. And if I want to win events, I got to go practice 10 footers and continue to make them until I keep on making them 100%. Right? Again, that would be an unrealistic expectation. And you would be chasing something and you'd just be getting frustrated because you'll set a goal that's never attainable. Right? You may have sessions and periods of time that you like hit them, right? There may be a practice session like, I'm going to put 10 balls here and see if I can make 10 out of 10 from 10 feet, right? There's definitely moments that you can say yes and do it, and you would accomplish it and you'll feel really great. But when we look at it, can we do that over and over and over and over and over the long term, right? So, you know, definitely figure out where your expectations are, where you're currently at, so you can set the correct expectations for, you know, wherever it is that you're at in this point of your, you know, in your life and in your game. I do have a story of, you know, talking about excuse me, expectations too. So I have a friend back home in Hawaii, really good golfer, and, you know, extremely accomplished, you know, as a junior golfer, and in college, extremely accomplished, you know, made his way to play professionally for a little bit, and then kind of hung it up. It wasn't for him. And then now just plays it more casually, got his amateur status back. And so he's playing some amateur tournaments here and there. But again, you know, as accomplished as he has extremely high expectations because of where he was, right? So sometimes we look at, where was I before, right? And I want to achieve that now. And sometimes you can, but you have to look at how much effort did it take for me to get there? And am I putting in the same amount of work and effort in and time in that got me to that place? So he comes in and he finally gets his, you know, I can't remember what it is, but there's a 2 or 3 year waiting period once you're playing professionally to not play any events ever. And they would reassign you to play amateur golf again. So finally got it back, and he's super excited because he wants to play in one of the, you know, main Hawaii Open events. The Open events in Hawaii would be where the amateurs gets to play in the same field as the pros, but there's an overall Open division. So whoever wins the Open tournaments is the champion, but there's also a amateur division as well. So in the amateur division, it would just be among whichever of the amateurs are signed up for the event. So he goes out and he plays, and he goes and practices. And, you know, since he's working now and he's not playing in college or doing it for a living, he doesn't have that luxury of practicing every day or practicing every week and doing it for hours and playing whenever and building a schedule to play whenever he wants. It's like, I have work 9 to 4, 9 to 5. You know, after work, I'll go hit balls. On the weekends, I'll go play. Sometimes I can get off early to go play. But because he's an accomplished player, he's able to hit really amazing shots and shoot really amazing scores. So he goes into his event and he feels like, I'm really ready for this thing. I'm going to go play. It's a course that was on a different island. Believe it was on Oahu. And we grew up playing this course, you know, through junior golf. And so we're very familiar with it, but it's not a place that we play all the time, but we played it like a number of times growing up. So it's not a brand new course. So he goes in with the highest expectations, and, you know, I'm on the phone with him and he's telling me, you know, my game is really good right now. And, you know, I'll be shocked if I don't win this thing. And he's talking about the entire tournament, right, with the professionals. So I'm not saying not to dream and think big. You should always be thinking, right, you're going to compete in every single event, but no limits to your expectations. So it's not a bad thing to know that, you know, I'll be shocked if I'm not going to win this thing. But when you start playing, understand that because you're not doing it for a living anymore, you're not doing it as consistently, you may not be playing at the same level and maintaining during the round the same capabilities that you once had. Right. There may be little things that distract you or little shifts in your game that are pretty innate when you're playing a lot and you don't really notice, and they happen and they kind of shift and you start missing things here and there, and then they escalate. So, he finishes his first round and I get a extremely long text with a lot of crazy stuff in there saying how horrible it was, and I can't believe this, and his score was, what did he shoot? He shot a 77 for the first 18 holes. And I had just been home that winter, so I played with him. We played about 6 rounds of golf in like the 3-week period that I was home, and that was kind of the most that he's played as well in a short period of time. And every round that I play with him, right, he has not shot over par. And so he comes out with 5 over par, 77, and now he's thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, right? At this point, I know he's not even looking at the scoreboard, but he's then comparing himself against, the rest of the field, right? I'm sorry, he's not looking at the scoreboard to compare himself against the field. He's comparing himself against his previous self and what he is expected to do. And, excuse me. So he's like, oh my gosh, 77 and all this stuff coming down. And I can't believe this. And, this is going wrong. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. And it's just this long list of things that, in a normal round of golf, when he was playing a lot, really wouldn't come up, and it made him feel almost like a beginner shooting 5 over par, right? So he's frustrated, and now he's going into this tactical mode and saying like, what am I doing? Because my ball's doing this. My swing must be doing this. What can I do? And I'm getting a text the next day, right before he tees off. I think I figured it out, right? That's never a good sign when you get a text in the morning warm up, right before a tee time, saying, I think I figured it out, because you shouldn't really be figuring out much when you're warming up for a state golf tournament or a big golf tournament, especially one that you have not played in over, no competitive event that you played in over 3 years, right? So he goes out, I think I figured out, and that was the last text. And day goes on, and I get a text at the end of the day again, or actually I text him, so how did it go today? And long email or long text again, right? All this stuff. Oh, I can't believe this. This was going on. I thought I had this. I thought I had this. I was like, oh, what did you end up scoring? He's like, 77. And he's like, again, I can't believe I shot 77 again. And all of this whole list of things coming on. And I'm like, to tell you the truth, we played 6 rounds of golf over the winter, which was probably 6 months ago or 5 months ago at that time, from when I played with him. And I said, you didn't shoot over par once when we played. And there was a round that we played a skins game, which was probably on the more competitive side for some of the casual stuff we were doing. And he made like 8 or 9 birdies in a skins game, right? And I said, you made 8 or 9 birdies playing, and you still didn't hit the ball that well. What does that, what does that say about your game? That means you have the game, but why are you judging yourself? And we're kind of going back to comparing yourself against yourself, but against your real self, not, a mirror or like of who you want to be, right? And he's capable of shooting these low scores, but now he's comparing himself against like who he wants to be and what he's expecting, and he's not able to manage his expectations. And I said, you haven't shot over par in 6 rounds. And, he even texted me a few weeks later saying how, I shot, I forget what it was. It was like 10 or 11 under at the course that he played. And he was 10 or 11 under after the first 12 holes. Right. And so like, if you can make that many birdies at any kind of round, then, you're capable of playing. But I can even tell you, like, even his expectation then is like, oh, but it was from the white tees and not the back tees, right? And so again, he's setting his expectations, which is already, showing signs of how he's going to perform when he plays in something big. So long story short, we have this chat on like, you just weren't hitting it that good anyway. You got to just accept the fact that you're not hitting it good, but you still can figure out how to play the game, because that is what you have. That was your best skill set. It's not your ability to strike the ball. It's not your ability to putt or chip, right? Obviously, to play at a high level, you have to hit the ball well. You have to putt, chip, do everything pretty well. But, you still played well not doing all of that stuff. So your ability to just play the game, understand the game, manage the game when you're playing is like your true talent that really gets you. And, at this point, he's still looking for the fix. And he's just getting a little frustrated, but, we kind of talk about it a little bit. And the next round, he comes out and he goes, I find out like, oh, how'd you do today? He's like, oh, today, a little bit better. I shot 4 under today to finish. And I was like, well, that's pretty good, right? And it's like, did you hit it any better? And he's like, realistically, I didn't. The big thing that happened was I had a few shots that went my way, a few putts went in, a few of my chips, got better bounces that end up closer to the hole, but he didn't. The one thing that he was searching for, right, that met his expectation of his previous self was never met, yet he found a way to shoot 4 under par. All right, so he finished 77, 77, 68, right? I don't even think at that time he even looked at the scoreboard because he's so frustrated. I'm like, oh, it should have been better. I should have won this thing. And, I go up and look at it after, right? And he ends up coming in the amateur division. I think he was 3rd or 4th place in the amateur division, right? Obviously, he went in there, you wanted to win. But when he puts those numbers up and he's not even looking, and he ends up being 3rd place, and in a place where probably when I'm talking to him, he doesn't even know what place he's at, because he's kind of comparing himself against somebody else, and he's not in the right place. And 3rd place. And what that tells you is, even his expectations of how the golf course was set up. If he played at a level of 5 over, and then 4 under, and in his mind, he thought he would have came like midfield, bottom, like closer, below midfield, and he ends up being 3rd or 4th place, that means his expectations and not of the golf course was set up a lot more difficult than what he's normally seeing day in and day out. And because he didn't play so many golf tournaments for years, that thing that you would take for granted as you're in the circuit of playing a lot of events, you would just say, I want to shoot this score. I want to shoot this score. I got to hit it this way. But, understand that golf courses change, conditions change. Some days are more windy than others, right? Sometimes the ground are more firm. There's so many conditions that we can't control, but you have to be aware of. So when you're hitting shots, sometimes we're hitting really great shots out there, and they're just not able to go to the hole because it doesn't fit, the capabilities in the game that we have, and we're not able to understand how to adjust, right? We see it on the professional tours all the time, on the ladies and men's tours when they're playing. When you see, players play out here in the U.S. and soft courses where everything's pretty receptive and it can get pretty low scores. And when you see some of the majors or some of the tournaments in Europe where everything's extremely firm, right, the scores are, and the wind conditions are a lot higher, the scores are tremendously higher, right? And courses are designed to be more difficult in some of the majors, but, the highest players, the champion players that play it, they understand that, this week I won't expect to shoot 20 under, 18 under, although I would be shooting to shoot my best score. If I'm playing good golf and it comes out and I pull out my round and I finish and says, yes, I hit it well, I recovered well, I did all of this stuff well, maybe this thing could have had a little bit of work, I distracted here, this went well, and my score is 72, that means you played a really, really good round, regardless of what place you came in. So know your expectations and be able to manage them, because that is one of the most important parts of being able to sustain yourself to become like the champion that you want to be. So 3rd, this is, something that's, fairly new to me, and a concept that's new to me that I really enjoy. 3 and 4 kind of go together. And as I explore it more, we see it more and more in, the best performers in the world. So anybody you consider like a champion, right? 3 is, get a mentor and model their skills. What that means is a mentor is anybody that has accomplished something that you are trying to achieve, right? So if we're an 80 shooter and we want to get to or if we're averaging 80 for 18 holes and we want to get to 75, a mentor is going to be somebody who has already achieved the score of, has been at 80 and achieved 75. Or a mentor is going to be somebody that has trained somebody to get from 80 to get to 75, right? So mentor, sometimes, we might hear coaches. Coaches are people that just give advice, give training advice. This is instructions on how to accomplish the task. So slightly different coach and mentor. Sometimes many times a lot of coaches are also mentors. But mentor is specifically somebody that has already gotten through the obstacle that's in your way to the next step of your life or in your golf game. Excuse me. And you want to model their skills. So skills meaning not how you swing the golf club or not the specific tactical things. Like you would want all their skills, like what exactly in your golf game, if you're trying to go from 80 to 75, this is my current golf game now that gives me an 80. What is it that I have that I currently don't have in my game that is preventing me from being a 75 shooter? Is it that I don't hit it far enough? Or is it that the width of my shots or the window of my shots are too wide, right? An 80 shooter might be wider, 75 might be a little bit more narrow. Or is it my percent of up and down shots from, inside 20 yards of the green are at, 10%, whereas a 75 shooter might be 30 or 40%, depending on the condition of your lie, right? So going directly to find somebody, where is somebody that, or who is somebody that is where I want to be, and I want to be able to learn from them, right? A lot of times if we're in this amateur phase, right, and capabilities, we would find if you're on a team, find a teammate, or if you play a lot with friends out socially, find somebody that you're playing with currently that is at where you're not at where you want to be. If you are hanging around with a peer group that you are the best player in your group, right, or in your circle of learning, then it's going to be very difficult for you to get to the next level, because a lot of times when we're looking at it, the next level that we're looking at, if we are the best in the group of people that we're with, we're looking at things on social media, we're looking at things on the internet, on YouTube, to see like PGA Tour, this is what they're doing. And, that would go back to our expectation, because now we're achieving something that's, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 times above where our current level is. So to be able to plan something in the short term, to design it, to see this is where I want to get to way up at the PGA Tour, this is who I'm trying to model right now, is going to be a lot more difficult. So, high school players, oftentimes, they model the upperclassman who's been playing for a few more years. College players, the underclassmen are modeling the upperclassmen. The freshmen are modeling, the sophomores, the juniors, the seniors, the people that have been playing for a few more years, to show them the ropes of how to manage their lives, how to manage, their academics within, playing a college sport, how to fit into practice, right? Sometimes these freshmen might come in like extremely good, right? Even more skillful than some of the upperclassmen, but it's not always the performance skills that you're looking at. What other skills do they have that you could model, right? So even like the work life or the academics, the work life, and all of that balancing and fitting that in to be able to manage and, achieve your next level. So that would be, getting a mentor and, model their skills. The next one is become a mentor, and then you would want to model your skills. So just as a underclassmen would model an upperclassman and get their skills that they currently don't have, you would want to do the same for the people under you, right? It does a couple things, right? If you're mentoring, people, players that are even a week behind you, a month behind you of where you used to be. Maybe they're working on something that you just figured out last week and you see them struggling. You are still a mentor to them, and you can show them the shortcut. All right, anytime you can mentor and model, you are giving shortcuts to the people that you are mentoring, or you're gaining the shortcuts from the people that you're mentoring from. So become a mentor, because now you can help, give back and gain that sense of fulfillment by helping other people, achieve more faster as well. And, what it does for yourself as you're thinking about everything that you've accomplished. Maybe you're helping somebody that, is where you're at a year ago or 2 years ago, and you're trying to get them to overcome, whatever challenge that they're getting. It's never easy to help somebody through something, because you always have to think and you have to break it down systematically, logically, in every which way to figure out, like, this is what they're doing. And for me to have accomplished that, what did I do? And it's getting you to relearn the steps. And now you're teaching yourself how to deconstruct all these skills that you accomplished. And a lot of times we forget about, like, just the little accomplishments that we've done. If we're playing golf, and for the longest time that you get out there and there's, get a player out there that gets frustrated every time they hit, a ball a little bit thin, and they're, oh my God, I can't believe I do this. And then it spirals down. Hit the next shot thin, oh my God, spirals down. And maybe you've been there and you took all this work to get yourself through that. And now it doesn't bother you. You hit it thin, it's like, oh, it's just thin. Where's it at now? Right. And you can move on. And you forget how you did that. But when you go back and you say, well, I've been in your shoes, you give them a perspective of where you were and where they're at. And then you actually have to think, well, when I was hitting it thin, I got super frustrated. Like, what did I do? What did I read a book? Did I learn it from another coach? Did another player tell me some really good advice that kind of stuck with me, that it's more like automatic now, that I don't have to think about? And it's getting you to break down all of these little things on that one skill that you figured out. And when you're doing that, you're becoming a much, much better learner. So now when you get the challenges that are, going to be in front of you in the future, you're able to look at these challenges and say, well, this is the challenge. This is where I'm at. How can I break down this challenge and see and explore on what could I do, or what pieces could I do to make this challenge a little bit more, easy to take in, so I can overcome it sooner, right? So, when you become a mentor, beyond just giving back and getting that sense of fulfillment, it makes you a tremendously better learner, because you do have to break down and deconstruct all the skills that you're trying to then pass on to the people that you're trying to mentor. As we go into the next one, we have, audit your beliefs. This is, a big one as well. So audit your beliefs. So that just means, like, beliefs, I'm going to say, are just stories, right? Stories that we tell ourselves. So as we all have different stories that we constantly tell ourselves, and you want to go in and audit that, meaning you want to go in and see what is all the stories that I'm currently telling myself. And this is kind of where you just create a list and say, like, when I play golf, or even when you're playing a practice round, things that go through your head, these stories that you tell yourself, write them down, just so you know. Because a lot of times these beliefs that we know, is they're, we don't even know we're telling it to ourselves, and they become reality, right? So the stories that we tell ourselves, we say it over and over and over and over again, and we continue to say it over, we tend to believe that reality. And what I mean by that, if you think back, just a year ago, and think about any of the struggles that you've had in your life, and you would think, you got into that challenge or that struggle, and you thought, man, this is, like, impossible. There's no ways I can figure this out. There's no ways I'll get through this. There's nothing. I can't believe this. There's no ways, right? And you kept on telling yourself that for, let's say, days, weeks, months, maybe a year, and it just became reality. And then all of a sudden, you figured it out, you got through it, and then your story changed, right? And then then you're saying, like, oh, I did do it, right? And as you're looking at these stories and beliefs that you're telling yourself, you want to keep the ones that, as you're going back, keep the ones that, pull you out of the dark times. As you're playing, you think, what are the stories that I tell myself that when I'm struggling, when I'm playing on the golf course, when somebody says something to me, anything, what is a story that have happened in the past that, you know, it didn't bother me. I just kind of bounced back and went up and overcame everything just from that, right? And write that thing down, because we want to keep the beliefs and stories that, you know, continue to escalate our lives, and find the beliefs or the limiting beliefs that, and stories that are keeping us or preventing us from getting to that next level. So, you know, if we're looking back at that struggle that you said you once had, and that I can never do it, and all of a sudden you did it now, and you look back and say, oh, that's no big deal now. But if you put yourself in that shoes a year ago, it was the hardest thing in the world. The emotional feeling that you have then is the same, no matter how big or small the struggle, right? So if you can figure out what are the stories that you're constantly telling yourself, and then be able to reshape those stories into something that, you know, gives you a little bit more encouragement, then that is just a little shift that you're going to make in your life, and the habit you're going to do to continue to get yourself to the next level. So what I mean by that is, let's say we have a belief that, you know, oh, I don't play good golf, or I can't play good golf now, and I can't get myself to my next level, or I can't win a golf tournament, you know, because I don't hit it far enough, right? Everybody who wins a golf tournament hits it so far, and now it's impossible, right? And you continue to tell yourself that you're never going to put yourself into a place to win a golf tournament or to become a champion until you actually accomplish that hit it further goal, or hit it further than your peers. What's the way we could change our story to then look at the other side, right? Can we then look at, is there anybody in the game who has won golf tournaments at the highest level, not hitting it very far? And the answer is always going to be yes, right? Any story, you can look at the opposite and say, has somebody done it with the skills that I currently don't have and been able to accomplish it? Yes, there has been, right? So instead of saying, well, I just got to hit it further to win golf tournaments, you can say, and look at, well, I can win a golf tournament, although I can't hit it far now. To make up for my distance, I'm going to have to chip better than everybody, because that's a capability that I can practice. I got to be able to putt further than anybody, or better than anybody, because that's a capability that I can practice. I got to be able to hit it straighter and more ball control than everybody, because that's something that I can do, and I can put in the work to do it, right? So change your story. Although, or I can't hit it far now, but I can do this to achieve what I want. So find all of the stories that you have that is preventing you or keeping you down. Anything that's, you know, on the negative and discouraging side, right? Another story is going to be, oh man, people just make too much noise when I'm playing, and it distracts me every single time. Oh, the bugs are always here. That's distracting me all the time. Oh, there's not enough light. It was getting a little dark, right? These are all stories that we're telling ourselves. Has anybody won golf tournaments, achieved high, extremely good results, playing with low light, right? Playing with bugs, playing with people talking, right? You see it all the time. Camera shots all the time when you're seeing it on the PGA Tour. But, you know, the media shows that when players are hitting bad shots and there's a flash that goes on and they hear it, right? They blame the cameraman, right? So then we feel like, oh, it's an okay story to believe because they're doing it. But nobody shows you the story that, or nobody tells a story, no player tells a story that every time they hit the golf ball on the tee, there's flashes going on. It's just that one errant shot that they hit that they're matching it up. So, you know, find the story that's holding you back, shift it into a more encouraging one, and then repeat that and make that a real part of your life. 6 is, this has got to be probably one of my favorite ones. Actually, they're all my favorite on the list, but one of the biggest ones and my favorite ones, again, is 6 is own your actions. That is what it is, you know, is what it says. Be accountable for everything that happens in your life and in your golf game, right? It's so easy to make excuses on, again, the camera, the bugs, or I was rushed, I wasn't prepared, you know, I wasn't loose today, he was talking, and you know, if it wasn't for that one shot that, you know, hit the rock and bounced out of bounds, then it would have turned around. That caused me to spiral down. Or, that putt kind of fell in the hole, popped out, that kind of got me all frustrated. I was supposed to be a birdie, I ended up with a par. I went to tap in that 1-footer and it lipped out, right? And you give yourself all of these stories, but only action that I'm the one that took the action to do it. I'm the one that's playing the game. I'm the one that's living my life. And I'm going to take responsibility for whatever outcome that comes in. There's nobody else but myself that's going to be responsible for the outcome of my life, the outcome of my golf game. So the sooner you can get yourself to be accountable and responsible enough to just say, I went ahead and did this, and I'm going to own that. And then the faster you can find the possibilities and search for the capabilities and practice them to overcome that obstacle, because like your belief, it's always going to come up. If you don't address what's in front of you, it's always going to come up. I know we're running close on time, so I'm going to share with you this one story and bust it through to the end. But a few months ago, I'll share just owning, your own actions. We never, anytime we're doing something that's not up to our expectations or not what we want to do, we never want to finish and follow through, or we never want to claim that it's us, right? And how many of you have been playing golf and been doing a practice and it's just so hard, and it's something that maybe we got to keep track of to measure, right? And it's just so awful for us that we just forget about it. It's this off day, we don't even, write it down. Or we're playing on the golf course and we're playing good, we're keeping score, and all of a sudden we make a few big holes and you say, you know what, I'm not going to keep score today. I don't want to know what I shot, because for whatever reason, I was distracted here, or I was tired, I got this, and you stop keeping score. Or maybe you just go on play and say, you know what, I just don't want to keep score today because I'm not hitting it very good, so I'm just going to go and have fun, right? If you can measure having fun, awesome, right? But measure it. But a lot of times we don't do things, and we don't take accountability and responsibility for our actions because we're just afraid to see what's in front of us, right? We're afraid to see the score. We're afraid to see, our performance, right? If you're going out and you just took a test at school and you got a bad grade, how many of us are going to look back at that bad grade and actually look at all the line items to see, or all the questions, see like, which ones did I get wrong? Which ones did I get right? And how can I prepare better the next time? How many of us would just grab that thing, put it in the bags? Oh my God, I guess I'll just go to the next one, because we just don't want to see the things that, make us feel bad or make us feel, less than ourselves. But so, figure out what you're afraid of, right? And those are the things that you absolutely have to do. And so going into my story, a few months ago, I played golf with a buddy of mine and his son, and we're having a good time. And I'm hitting some pretty good shots, right? And I'm getting some shots that are just not, some bad bounces, some good bounces, and coming down to the end, right? I'm kind of aware of what I'm shooting, but I'm coming into 18 and I'm like, I'm going to shoot somewhere in the mid 80s today. And I'm like, well, I guess that's okay. We'll do what I can do. So I hit a drive on 18 down the middle, and my second shot goes to the just right of the green, and I'm chipping. I have about a 25, 30 foot chip for birdie 3 on 18 at the course that I'm playing. And for whatever reason, right, I went up there and I tried to do some kind of flop shot or something. Typically I don't do it, but I bladed it all the way over the green into the bunker. And then my buddy and his son, they just start laughing at me. So I now they're about done with the hole, and I'm walking to the bunker by myself, and they're watching me. And so, well, I guess I got to get this on the green. And then I blade it from the bunker, and it goes about 40 yards over the green, hits the big pine tree in the back, falls by the first tee box on the hole, and now I have this huge tree in my way. And so now I'm like, oh my God, people on the fairway watching me, and now I'm feeling all nervous because now they're watching me. And in my head is like, oh my God, I should just pick up the ball because I'm already going to shoot in the 80s and just call it a day and not hold those people up, because I'm afraid of finishing and seeing the score that's going to do. But I just go ahead and finish anyways. And I'm going to try and flop it over this tree. I hit the tree, it bounces down, rolls out to the side. I'm behind the car path. I go and chip it. It goes short again to the exact spot where I then started, where I was hitting for 3. Then I go and chip it onto the green and 3-putt to make, I believe I made a 10 on that hole. Yes, I made a 10 to finish up. And I was thinking I'm going to shoot in the mid 80s today. And I end up closing up with a 91 for 18 holes. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I don't know the last time I've shot in the 90s. And the last time I shot in the 90s, actually trying to play good golf and shot in the 90s, and I'm like, holy smokes, I can't believe this. And I'm a little bit embarrassed, but it is what it is, right? We all feel embarrassed of, and the only person that's embarrassed is myself. Nobody cares around me, right? Looking back now, nobody cares. My buddy, his son, they didn't care. They just thought it was funny, me hitting it back and forth on the hole and making a 10, right? They really didn't care if I shot a 91 or not. But shot a 91, and, it's hard to look at a score, especially a score that I haven't shot. I don't even know the last time I shot in the 90s, right? It had to be when I was a kid to shoot in the 90s. And looking at it and actually looking at my round and saying, well, I actually didn't play bad at all. I was hitting my tee shots good, right? My drives were good. I was hitting solid shots. I got a couple bad bounces here or there, right? The biggest one was my 10 on number 18. And that was it, right? A couple, bounces here and there, missed putts that lipped out along the way. I hit some good putts that ended up, or good chips that ended up catching a ridge because I didn't read the terrain very well, right? So my knowledge of reading terrain wasn't skillful enough to get myself close, and I hit a good chip that ended up far where I 3-putted it in some ways. So I was like, I actually played pretty good, and it wasn't as discouraging as I thought it was going to be, and it wasn't as embarrassing once I kind of broke it down. And it then, leads me into, I then went and played the same course again with another friend 5 days later. Right, and I hit a few balls in the meantime, but I really didn't practice much just because of time. But I wanted to play golf, and I took a friend out there to go play, and we played for the next tee markers further, so it was a little bit more challenging. And I went through the round, and performance-wise, I'd say I hit it almost identical. Right, the difference would be, there was a couple of chips that was in a tough spot that ended up really close, where typically it would be further. Right, so I made some really good parts. So I had chips that went my way. I had a couple long putts that fell in that typically I would 2-putt, right? But my game wasn't drastically different. And by the end, I carded from a further distance, shot a 75 5 days later with the exact same game. So it kind of brings it back into like the story that I had earlier with my buddy from back home, that, you can take the same game, right? And if you're seeing the reality of what's happening in the game and, push the fear away of what it's going to make you feel like, or what others may be thinking about you, because at the end of the day, nobody is really going to be judging you on your performance, right? We are our biggest judge to ourselves, and we're our hardest judge. And you got to just be able to move past that and just accept the fact, yes, I shot a 91, what can I do, right? And it comes out for today, or that round, it came out that I actually played pretty well, right? And it's even embarrassing right now to say, like, I played pretty well and shot a 91. And now you're listening to me on this high performance training session, right? Somebody that played well and shot a 91. But, if I'm not able to face those fears, right, of just looking and seeing what happened, then I'm not able to extract the really good things, and I'm not able to go back 5 days later with the same game that I haven't really practiced, and then turn that from a 91 to a 75 from a much difficult tee markers. So own your actions. Find out, like, the only thing that's preventing you from accepting the fact and responsibility is just, our fear of judgment, right? Our fear that what others may be thinking about us because of this, right? Because we want to portray ourselves as like our highest self, but sometimes we just have to be vulnerable and accept the self that's provided to us for that day, right? If you can accept who you are no matter what it is, right, then you can always extract the best things and constantly improve. And it brings us to our last point. So once you can accept the responsibility and take action, or own your own actions and accept your own responsibility and everything that happens to you, we can be able to measure your progression. So again, this is something that I constantly tell all of you and everyone to do is, you have to be measuring, you have to be measuring, something. You have to be measuring your performance at some level throughout every aspect of what you're doing, whether it's golf. If you're doing golf, you got to be measuring, components of golf, right? You can be measuring score. Score is a baseline, right? You can be measuring everything from how I feel when I'm playing, but create something that you can measure constantly, right? The key, and I'm gonna put this on here, is it needs to be frequently. Something that we measure just one time doesn't really do much, right? So you need to be having frequent measurements constantly. So you have your baseline and you're constantly measuring it against what it was, right? And it cycles it back to comparing against your current self. We won't know who we are or our current capabilities unless we're measuring something, right? If you're measuring it based on like what it feels like I'm playing, feels like I play pretty good and that equals 75, or feels like I'm playing good and that equals 69, feels like I'm playing good and it equals this. What we feel is a lot different than our performance. So if we're never actually taking metrics that we can see a clear definition of how much better am I getting? How much worse did I get? Did I stay the same? If the measurements that you're taking does not give you that exact feedback, then you're not measuring the right stuff, or you're not measuring it deep enough, right? We can even measure how much like one of the things that I love to measure, nowadays is, how much focus did I have on each hole, right? On each shot. And I would rate myself. If I made a 4 in a hole, I hit 4 shots and I'll give myself a rating on that hole. Out of 4 shots, how many of the 4 shots was I focused, went through everything and accomplished that shot, right? And there's shots that goes extremely well and my focus was off, right? And I would give myself a minus on that one. So 3 out of 4 if I had a minus. And then if I measure every shot, now I have a percentage at the end of my round to see every shot that I've hit, I'm at this percentage of focus, right? And if I'm working on focus to elevate my game, can I measure that, can I measure that next round and see how did I do against my last round? Absolutely, right? Because you can measure your level of focus. Again, we can measure our level of, productivity as we practice, right? We can go create a scale 1 to 5. How productive was I in this specific practice session, right? If I practice short putting or long putting and I spent 15 minutes there, journal on the side after that 15 minutes, how productive was I in 1 to 5? How would you know? Take some notes and say, what did I learn from this, right? And if you're able to create detailed notes and say, like, I absolutely learned this, then you can go 5 out of 5 today. Or, well, I kind of got distracted here. Maybe I picked up this one thing or 2 things, and that would be, you wouldn't see it that clear. That would be like a 1 out of 5, right? But you would give yourself some kind of measurement that you can go every time you practice, how productive and how, focused was I during those sessions. And, if you're playing golf, there's tons of apps out there that give you actual metrics that keeps track of, some of the critical components of your golf game. And it's all automated that it does it in their system. So, some of this stuff, you don't have to create your own thing, right? People already have came out and built it. You just got to go and use it and be disciplined enough to make that a habit in your life to say, if I want to become a champion, if I want to get myself to the next level, what am I willing to do to get there, right? This is probably the one part that is the least enjoyable part, because nobody wants to measure stuff because it takes time to do it, right? But think about planning. If you don't plan, right? Planning always takes time. The better you plan, the better your outcome, the results are of that plan that you get. So measuring is just part of the planning process where you're taking in the specific metrics and numbers that you need to see where am I today? This is where I need to be to become my champion, to win golf tournaments, or to get to this level, to become on the LPGA tour, to get to the PGA tour, to get to whatever level. This is where I need to be. All right, this is where I'm at. What is my next step? Oh, my next step that maybe I have learned from, one of the mentors that is just above me. I need to get this capabilities, or I need to get this score. I need to get this part of my game. Where does that lie? If you don't know where you're at, all of this other stuff, really won't help you, because you're just going to be going up and down, and you won't know when you're getting better, when you're getting worse, other than, does it feel like it's getting better, or does it feel like it's getting worse, or is my score going down? Can you get better as your scores go up? Absolutely. You can tremendously get better and shoot a higher score, right? And it happens all the time. If you look at the PGA Tour, you never see PGA Tour scores constantly go down like this, right? Otherwise, they'd be shooting 59, 58, 57 all the time. But they're getting better at certain components in their game, yet they may shoot a 72, whereas the round before they could have shot a 69. Or another component could have been going better, and they shoot a 75, and the previous round might have been a 65, right? You see that all the time, where certain components start to get better, but other components kind of take it off balance. So measure, and you have to measure frequently. Be dedicated, be disciplined to figure out what key things do you need to measure frequently. What do I need to measure on a daily basis? What I need to measure on a weekly basis? What I measure on a monthly? What I need to measure on a seasonal basis, right? If you have these little key things, right, those are going to be the things that drives you to the next level. Because if you don't know where you're at and you don't know how to get there, then you're going to be spending tons of time just hoping to become the champion that you're wishing to become. So thank you, everybody, for your time. I know we went a little extra this evening, but thank you guys so much for your time. And if you guys do have any questions, please let me know. And I will give this another 30 seconds for anybody that has questions on anything that we cover this evening. All right, so thank you guys all for joining on a beautiful holiday weekend. Actually, hold on one second, we got one question. It is from Blake. If I have tryouts a week from now, is it recommended to practice every day? So one is, tryouts. Okay, Giselle has one. So tryouts, I'll give you like a more generic answer, because it's different depending on like where you're trying out. So there's no like specific answer on what it is. I'll tell you first, the most common mistake that most players make is, I need to practice, like kind of what you're saying right there, right? Do I need to practice every day? Maybe or maybe not. But the most common mistake that everybody makes is trials is coming out, whether it's high school trials, college trials, maybe it's a qualifier coming up, like a qualifier to get into a tournament, or a professional qualifier to get into a PGA event is coming out very soon, next week. I gotta go cram all of this stuff in. One, you have to, that's probably the worst thing you can do, is just react to say, I have something coming, I gotta throw in all the time. It goes back into planning, right? If you have tryouts, or if you have a tournament, or you have anything that's preparing for, right? In one of our previous sessions on how to like create a successful season, where we talked about planning, right? So tryouts or a tournament or event should be on your schedule way in advance, right? In the beginning. So if it's in your schedule in advance, in a month, in the end of the season, wherever it's at, you're going to know where it's at. So all of your planning realistically comes as the event approaches. All right. If you're ever finding yourself in a spot where, I don't know if I'm ready, I got to go cram everything in a week, the realistic truth is you can't really build a tremendous amount of skill in a day or in a week. Right? You can get some momentum gains just by spending time there, but being able to change a tremendous amount of skill, like where you realistically are today, is going to be pretty close to where you're going to be next week. Right? So if you start measuring stuff, you're going to see that some of the gains is going to be so incremental week to week, but if you can see it, right, they eventually become, astronomical. So, the generic answer is, if we have trials, if we have events, if we have things coming up, right, we should know in advance, and it should be taken care of in the planning process before. If my best advice in this case, right, if let's say it's something that you just found out and you want to go play and you're going to sign up and it's in a week, right? One, if it's an event, you kind of going back into your expectations, know like where you're at right now so you can understand what could happen and play your best type of golf throughout the round, because you know what the realistic, your realistic capabilities are. If you're constantly practicing, right, and you have a consistent schedule built out already, what I would say is keep to your normal routine, because you want to be as comfortable as you can going into your practice, right? Anytime you make shifts and drastic shifts into like your lifestyle and your routine, it puts you in a more anxious position. So if you're just practicing, let's say 3 times a week for 2 hours a day, right? And that's consistent. That's the program that you built out for the season. And now as it's getting closer, you feel like you got to just ramp it up. Right? If you're ramping it up, that should be built into your preparation, right? So you can see it. It's expected for me to kind of taper a little bit more closer, right? So maybe you're starting with 3 2-hour sessions a week. And as it gets to like a month in advance, maybe you're going to add in 3.5 hours to those, and it starts to ramp up. And then, it gets 3 weeks, maybe you're going to add a couple more rounds in there leading up to it. And then by the time it gets the week before, you have a schedule that may be a little bit more ramped up, but it's going to be tapered into that level. Instead of like, I'm doing it like 3 times a week for an hour, trials are next week, I'm going to go practice 3 hours a day, every day, every day. And I'm going to see if I can go play 9 holes all the time and see where that takes me. Because what that's going to do, yes, it's going to get you comfortable around the game, but it's going to bring your expectations level extremely high, because you're going to say to yourself, I put all of this time in it, and I'm going to expect tremendous results. When the reality is, even though you're doing it all in 1 week, right, the results, is just not going to be that great, right? It could be great, right? But on average, we're going to say like, it's just going to be small little increments, right? We could, you could get just as good results, with the same practice and still have a really great day. So keep yourself as comfortable as you can in that situation. If you haven't started ramping it up towards that event, keep it as consistent as you can. What you will do is dive back into where is it in my game that's going to add me the biggest benefit towards my overall game, and you'll maybe spend and shift your time around in your practice to tailor to those, and then while still keeping the as needed and maintenance parts of your game. So you'll shift the focus to something that might be a little bit more generic, that we're saying, I'm building this and I want my driving to be good in this and this and this, to then, well, where is it? How was I playing the last couple of weeks? Do I need to shift and focus on something that might be a little bit more critical going into next week? So I hope that answers your question there. Giselle has one. Let's say at your blue in the tournament and you're committed to the next level, Will there be a higher level in the long run? Can you clarify that question? Sorry, I don't understand that one. Will there be a higher one after blue? Sorry, can you just describe blue for me? I'm confused on blue. Maybe the context. Oh, I see. So are you talking about the distance that you're playing on the golf course? Is that what you're talking about? Oh, okay. So I think you're talking about as you're building in your practice, and if you're playing these tournaments at scaled down golf courses, and I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to try and give it my best here on understanding this. So if you're playing a scaled down golf course and you set your goals at each yardage to be a certain score, and let's say it's even par, and you pass even par and you get to the next one, and then you pass even par again and you get to the next one, and all of a sudden you run out of distance. Is that what you're talking about? And there's no more yardage left on the golf course? Got it. So, and are you asking how do you measure beyond that? Okay, got it. So if you're in a development phase and you are creating an environment that gives you this incremental success, so you can see how you're doing on the golf course, and you're scaling down the golf course to meet your capabilities, to just stretch you a little to get better, right? Stretch you a little to get to the next level. Eventually, you start from a scaled golf course and then you hit the end and there's no more yardage, right? Then it's always, right, your end goal is always score, right? Is for most golf courses at 18 holes, it's a par 72. And if you're hitting 72, it's always to see if I can get to 71, right? To see if I can get to 70, 69. As you play from the full tee markers, you know, the USGA and has their own like rating system that they use if you want to do like amateur golf tournaments that, you know, give you a mild reference of your score. It's called your index, and your index is relative to the par of the course. So let's say par is 72 and your index is a 5. That means you're roughly 5 over par for average. And let's say you get to 72 and your index is a 0. So as your skills and capabilities get better and you start shooting lower, your index can go into the opposite end. So if it's, you know, -5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, then it can go, as you pass even par, it goes to +1, +2, +3, +4, +5. So when you see PGA Tour players, they would probably, I don't even want to say the wrong thing, but if I was to guess, you know, their index would be in on a normal golf course, like something that we would see, like that we would play on the weekends, would probably be a +5, 6, or 7. On a PGA level golf course, you can see like their averages. The number one player in the world would play to about a +3 point something. So they're roughly like 69, 68 point something to 69 is the number one player scoring average in the world for the men's. So you can go beyond, you know, even par, and then you would scale it that way. But once you're kind of at that level of, you know, how do we measure once we're at 72, right? That's where it gets, you know, a lot more into the measurement process, because now it's not just how well am I driving. It's going to be like, what position could my drives be in, right? Or how much opportunity is my driving or my tee shots are in, versus like just how far is it going, or am I just keeping it in play? Or you'll see a stat like once you get to that next level is proximity from the hole, right? When I'm in these yardage buckets of 100 yards to 120 yards. What is my average proximity to the hole every time I have this yardage over the course of, you know, this event this month? And then maybe from 100 to 120, it might be 15 feet or so. I'm not exactly sure. I'm just kind of making this up, but let's say it's 15 feet, right? You would find out what is the realistic expectation of proximity around the hole. Because if 15 feet is equal to the #1 player in the world, that's a bucket that you really wouldn't touch. But if 10 feet was the #1 player in the world, that's a bucket that could get better, right? So again, you would just have to fine tune and look at specific areas. It would be like, what would be my, you know, average putts from 30 feet, my average putts from 8 feet, my average putts from, you know, 10 feet. If you go on PGAtour.com and just look up any of the player profiles, you know, they take stats on a lot of these players. The PGA Tour players, they're lucky that they have a system that's already done for them. There's somebody that manages every shot for them. It's called ShotLink. And only tour players have access to this thing. So somebody measures exactly where their tee shot goes on every single hole, exactly where the next one goes, how far from the hole, how many putts. If they're on the putting green putting from 30 feet, when they hit their first putt, how close is it to the hole? Is it past the hole? Is it short of the hole? And all of this stats is bundled up for them so they can take these metrics for them, right? So it's extremely detailed for at that highest level, but that's kind of how detailed they're looking. They're looking at every single position of their golf ball, and then they're coming up with a summary and some kind of system to take all of these, and they work with, you know, whatever coaches that are working with in the strategic side and the skill development part, and saying, this is all of these stats, these are all of my shots, where it's going, you know, how do I make sense of this, and how do I, you know, figure out metrics or measurement progression that I can track every single week, every single round, every single season, and then go from there. So, you know, tee yardages, you know, are just one, right? Most golf courses just have, you know, they have a 4 tees, maybe they have a one just behind the 4, they have a middle tees, and then they have a back tee. So anywhere from 3, 5, 6 tees is where most courses would have at the full tee markers. But, you know, beyond just the yardage, you have to dive deeper into the specific shot category and, you know, area of your golf game to dive in. Hope that answers your question. And okay, got it. Awesome. I will, if you guys have any other questions, just let me know right now. Otherwise, we will call it a night. Thank you guys all for spending the evening tonight, and we'll see you guys all soon. Have a good night.